So, Troy, what are we talking about today? It's a little bit of laughter, man.
A laugh fest, comedy. Let's
about-
talk about comedians.
How about the-
Comedians.
Greatest ever comedians.
Yeah, well, according to us.
Well, that's
Right.
all it counts.
Who else is
right?
there? There has been so many, comedians from the very first time that somebody put a little red nose on their face and said, hey, this is funny. But, you and I have kind of the same age group, if you will. So our comedians may be a little different from some of the younger viewers we have. But let's talk about who we think are the best comedians.
It is whatever era that you did grow
Yeah.
up in, okay? Some of my favorites, back in the Johnny Carson days, I'm dating myself big time, but, I like the guys like Mr. No Respect, right?
Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Red tie, always wearing a suit.
Yeah.
It's his outfit. He gets no respect. Hey, I don't get no respect,
No respect. I don't get no respect at all. No respect at all.
He said he could never have sex with his wife because every time he took his clothes off, she couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
He was a one-liner guy.
Who was before him? That was Henny Youngman. Remember Henny Youngman?
Yeah, that's
Henny
way
Youngman?
before me, yeah.
He was a one-liner guy, and I think Rodney and he were the best at that.
And they weren't dirty at all. I mean, think about it. Rodney did Caddyshack. I mean, remember that was a classic.
It was. He did one about some swimming or diving something too. It was
Old school, or back to school,
something
yeah,
like that,
something like that.
But I think the thing about Dangerfield was he was he'd just go after himself all the time, and his family and his wife, right? What does it take, my wife, please? Was like, that was so simple. But I remember one of his jokes, I think it was on Johnny Carson, he said something like, I looked up my family tree. I was the sap. It's just a simple one-liner stuff.
Or he walks in the bar and the bartender says, what do you have? And he goes, surprise me. And he showed me a naked picture of my wife.
Yeah. And you remember his doctor, right? Hey, Dr. Vinny Boombang.
Exactly. But that's one of them. You throw me one.
How about Richard Pryor? I mean, I think Richard Pryor is the standard of stand-up comedians.
Well, Richard kind of set a whole new precedence.
He did. Pretty remarkable career. A lot of highs and lows. He was a totally different person off the stage than he was on the stage. On the stage, he was just kind of flawless comedian. Off stage, he had a lot of personal problems. He had drug problems. I remember he lit himself on fire doing crack basin or whatever it was. And he came out in jokes pretty soon after that. It's like, hey, you're running down the street on fire. People get out of your way.
Yeah, but they say that if you're not clinically depressed, you can't be a comedian.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes. Good comedians have to have that, it happened to me kind of thing. In fact, I think Richard Pryor, didn't he grow up in a brothel? He was with his mom and he lived in a brothel or something like that?
I've heard that story. I'm not sure if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Maybe our viewers can tell us.
Yeah.
That would be nice to know. But yeah, Richard Pryor is definitely one of the best ever.
And I bet you and I will agree on perhaps the best, George Carlin.
Oh, man.
Right?
The 7 words you can't say on television.
Can you say them on the podcast?
No, I don't think it would be too smart.
Fart, one of them. You can do that.
Yeah, you
one.
can say fart,
Ass
but that's
was
the
one of them.
last
We can
one.
do that here.
Yeah. Shit, you can say that one. But
Yeah.
no, George, talk about a funny guy. He spent 40 years on stage.
Yeah, he's a what I call a sophisticated wordplay kind of guy. He was a smart comic.
He was a poetic.
He was a poetic comic. Yeah. And, he would go after all the bullshit that is piled upon all of us by clergy, by advertisers, by politicians, and he would dig underneath that and say, screw that. Here's what I think about that. He was also really good about religion, which I follow completely.
He was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, when he got going about the Pope, man, you just, your side hurt for a week.
So what exactly is God going to come sit next to me and help me out with this shit,
He died too young. What, he died 2004?
Was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I can't, or 2008.
Yeah, he was actually a real straight-laced comedian when he started. He was like, your basic kind of comedy, and then he grew his hair, grew a beard, started doing drugs, and got funnier.
But he did a lot of work for Disney. He was in
Yeah.
Cars, and he was in the Train movie. I mean, he did a lot of stuff.
Doing all
for-
voiceover, though, right?
Yeah, all voiceover
Yeah.
for children's stuff.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of different facets to him. That was what was cool about George. But when he got on stage, holy moly.
What do you think of Eddie Murphy?
Eddie is a really class act, I thought. I think Eddie is so just naturally funny when he does Beverly Hills Cop and
Yeah.
all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. When he gets on stage, I mean, I love him on stage, but I like Eddie better on film.
Yeah, Eddie was the perfect transition from Richard Pryor, right?
Right.
Eddie turned stand-up comedy into stadium comedy art.
Right.
And his outfits, do you remember the
Oh
outfits?
my God,
And
that
some of these
red
folks-
leather thing that he always
Yeah,
wore.
all his red leather
all
thing,
the
and his
zippers,
blue
yeah.
leather thing, uber tight, right?
Yeah.
And if you guys are too young to understand what we're talking about, go, when you're done with this, finish up on YouTube, go Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy live, their
87,
shows.
yeah,
They're
something like that.
unbelievable.
Trading Places,
Yeah, good movie. Yeah,
Dan Aykroyd.
yeah. And of course, he was on Saturday Night Live, right?
Oh, yeah.
All of his characters. He had Buckwheat. He did a great Buckwheat. He did Gumby. you know?
Gumby. Oh, shit. I forgot
So
about
what,
Gumby.
Velvet Jones.
Yeah.
He had so many great characters on Saturday Night Live. And he went back recently, right? He was off for decades.
Right.
And they finally called him back, and he went on there and did almost all of his old characters on Saturday Night Live.
Well, I think he's settled into the last 10 years, maybe 15 years into that Dr. Doolittle thing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's doing all the kids stuff, and he's
Yep.
really, probably because he's got grandkids and all that, and he's kind of having a great time with it.
Grandkids, he's got 8 kids of his own with 5 different wives. He's got
Yeah.
spawn all over the place.
He's got it going on, that's
He
for
does.
sure.
Who else was it you think was one of the better
Well,
comedians?
a lot of people will not remember this cat, but Mr. 100, George Burns.
George Burns, yeah.
So he smoked 15 to 20 cigars a day, okay, and 5 or 6 martinis, right? This guy, he had what was the show that he had forever, the George Burns show?
Yeah, it was, don't know. We'll have to put it down below.
And a very strange looking fellow, but he was another one-liner.
Little Jewish guy, big glasses,
Yeah.
right? Very clean comedian.
Yeah.
Back, when he was started out, it wasn't a lot of, no
Oh,
F-bombs
no,
and S-bombs.
He never got dirty. Yeah, him and Gracie.
Gracie, that's right. Yeah,
His
good night,
wife.
Gracie. Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Yeah.
I think she passed. She was like in her 97 or 95 or something. He lived like 5 more years.
Did you
past
name
her.
your dog after Gracie? Is that-
No, I did not.
His dog's name is Gracie, just so you know.
Yeah. No, that would be Grace Jones.
Oh,
Yeah.
also one of my faves, by the way.
Gotta love Grace Jones.
For several reasons.
Not a comedian, but yes, a lot of reasons on that one,
No.
for sure. But one of my favorite right now, and I, brother, I hope you're doing well. He just had a stroke. Sinbad. Sinbad. I know a lot of people,
Interesting.
don't think about him. But,
I don't that often. You're right.
He was back in the 80s and mid 90s. He was cool and everything else. But now that he's got older, he's like 58, 59, and he gets up on stage and talks about his kids and his wife and his grandkids and what a pain in the ass they all are.
Well, that goes back to what we were saying, right? It's personal experience. Yes, they exaggerate probably a ton. I mean,
Of course.
you'd probably get divorced and have no kids if that were the case. But that's what's funny because we can relate. Have wife, have kids, and he says that stuff. You're like, I kind of understand what he's talking about there.
But he's a big guy. He's 6'4",
Big guy, yeah.
and he's just commands that presence. There's so many. Poppy, our little Mexican friend who likes his VW buses also. I mean, there's so many. You guys got to tell us who your favorites are.
As I'm going through my list, and I don't know why this is, but they're mostly male. But how about Phyllis Diller?
Oh, my
She was a
God.
complete groundbreaking comedian. I guess you can call them actresses, comedian. It's all the same to me. But I thought she was really fantastic, and she was also very witty. She was like really fast and witty.
Her and Joan Rivers.
Yes,
I mean, Joan
Right.
Rivers, holy moly.
right.
I mean, she had a tongue that would just snap you in half.
Yes, I think Phyllis Diller was saying, you know you're old when they discontinue your blood type.
That's
To me,
hilarious.
I like two kinds of comedy, really. The wit that we're talking about, when you can throw it out there. In fact, who was that? Don Rickles, right? He would just burn an audience.
Yeah.
He had stuff all written out. He had his script and his jokes, but half his show was about people who were heckling, and he would just go after them. And he was so fast at that. So I really enjoy that kind of comedy, but I also like comedians who can string it out, and 5 minutes later they bring you back to the point of that joke, and it's just hilarious, right?
And guess what? I like the comedian to get in trouble. Listen, this you can't get in trouble anymore. Don't say this. Don't say that. David Chappelle, keep doing what you're doing,
I was just going to say, David Chappelle. You got it. Yep.
I love it when he went after Jesse Smollett.
And his character, when he's a teacher or something, his nose is just full of Coke residue.
Yeah.
And he's teaching a classroom of little kids. That's funny stuff.
It
Come
is.
on.
And you got to laugh at our politicians, our actors and actresses, and the thing that's going on that day. That's what comedians are supposed to do. And you're supposed to be able to, it doesn't matter what color, what race, whatever the hell you are, you're supposed to be able to laugh at everybody.
Yeah, lighten up. Talking about that is like Red Fox. Red Fox is one of the dirtiest comedians. You get a couple of his old albums. Next time you go to an album shop, try to find an old Red Fox comedy album. Filthy stuff, right? His definition of indecent, if it's long and it's hard and it's in deep, it's indecent. It's just, I can't even do it right.
And
I remember it from the old album, but
that's why you're not a comedian.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
on vinyl, by the way. That's how old that shit is.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we go, I want to talk about this. This guy's a friend of mine. I used to run own music venues, and I had a guy that before I closed Lido Live, that venue, before all this crap happened with COVID and all this other thing, the last act we had was Mr. Andrew Dice Clay. Andrew, love you, brother. He came in, and we had a line around the block, and I thought, he's going to come in and do this hickory dickory dock, which I love that stuff. Jack and Jill ran up the hill with $1.25 each. Yeah. Jill, that bitch, came back with $2.50. Right? That guy's funny, but
it's he got a New York shtick, right? I mean,
he's from the Bronx.
Yeah,
but he came with a whole new shtick. I mean, and just blew the audience away. At the end, he threw in the nursery rhymes, which he's known for. But man, I mean, he just changed it up, and it was so cool.
And honestly, he's a good actor too. I've seen him in a lot of all of his films, right? And he's a really good actor. Yes, they're bit parts. He's not going to be a romantic lead. Don't need to be. He's very, very good at that.
Ford Fairlane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great show, and he just did. I mean, recently, not just. It's been a number of years, but he was in Star is Born.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, he did a good job with that. He was the dad, right?
He was the dad and the chauffeur of the limo.
We need to get him on the show, Hammer.
We should.
Yeah.
Andrew, I'm going to call you, so I'm going to get you on the show. Listen, guys, we're out of here, but please tell us who your favorite comedian is, and we'll see you next time. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. Love you, man. We're out.